As you can see in the vise, there's a Legge 5-lever British standard sash mortice lock, and this lock was mounted on the right in the door and it's been drilled. And I've been sent this by a good friend who wanted some hints and tips on using the GJ Locks ASEC Legge Pin Cam tool to avoid this. Although, to be fair, out of all the locks that you can drill on a door on the right, this is probably one of the easier ones because of where the actual drill position goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly talk through opening this, and we're going to use the pin and cam kit. So I'm just going to put that here. And the first thing to do is to prepare a reader key. It's a bit cold in here and plasticine doesn't do too well in the cold, but we'll give it a go. What I like to do, I've got a scalpel blade. You take a reading from the back of the levers. So in this particular case, we need the key with the cutout that allows us to read the back of the levers on the right. And what I like to do is take a sharp blade and just key that surface a little bit to make the plasticine stick. So just scoring that up a bit and making it a little bit rough, and also taking any sort of dirt or grease off there. I'm going to pop that into the plasticine mould, and you have to be very pedantic about how you do this process, because the better the read that you get from the plasticine, the easier this particular lock is to open. So I'm going to just warm that up a bit. I'm going to hold that key so that it's twisted and the bit of the key there is pressed right down into the mould, and then I'm going to pop that plasticine in there, and I'm going to use this sharp scalpel blade and just saw with a sawing motion, just go across the top there. And then I'm going to just clean the edges of that off, so the plasticine then is the exact shape of the actual key itself, and we've got some nice sharp edges for us to work with. There we go. So we now have an accurate looking plasticine reader key. In fact, as you can probably see, that hasn't actually stuck. So there we go, there's the first problem I've got. So maybe that plasticine looks like it's a bit old. Maybe it's lost its adhesion properties. Let's try again quickly. So I'm just going to give that another key, give it a bit of a scratch. Okay, let's just see whether we can get it to stick a bit better this time round. Give it a slice, nice and accurate, with twisting into the mould there. And then clean it off. It looks like this piece has actually stuck better to that, to the metal. There we go. And it really is worth being very pedantic about this and taking your time. I'm now going to use the spray shampoo, this Batiste. This was a great hint that came from Gav. People use talc, people spit on it. I'm going to use a little bit of spray talc, and as you can see, what that's done is it's actually coated that. I can wipe that off, but it creates a bit more contrast on the plasticine when you take a read, so it makes life a little bit easier. It also stops that plasticine from sticking to the levers. So let's just put this camera back up to there. I'm going to pop that in, and I'm going to turn in the locking direction until the key stops, and there's a very obvious stop there. I'm just going to give a little wiggle, and then I'm going to turn it back and then pull that out. And there we go, the plasticine's still on there. And what we've actually got is a really nice looking read on there. So I'm going to pop that down on the bench. Let's just clear this out the way. There we go, get all that plasticine out the way. So with this particular lock, each lever does leave a very different mark in the plasticine for you. And what I've done is I've taken an entire lever set from 1 through to 7 and popped them in the lock and done taken readings, very accurate readings, and I use this basically as my calibration for working out what we've got going on here on this particular lock. So let's have a look at this, and we can see it's a 7 cut key, so it's got an ABA pattern. That means that the lever nearest the bolt and the next one in will always be the same height, which is evidence from what we can see there. And so that mark starts just above where that bit on the key's been cut. If it was a 3 height lever, then generally we find that the indentation will move all the way down to that line there. If it's ever so slightly above it, as it is in this case, then it's going to be a 4 height. So that's either going to be a 3 or a 4 height. I would say that's probably going to be a 4 height looking at it. And then if you look at lever number 4 in the middle there, the second one in from the bolt, you can see that it's actually left a mark at the top of the key, but there's no mark at the bottom. There's only one lever in this lock that will leave a mark at the top like that. Normally it's a little bit smaller than that actually, and that is actually lever height 2. If there's no mark whatsoever, then it tends to be a 1, but that's probably going to be a 2. So we've got 4, 2, 4, and then we've got 2 marks there, and you can see there's quite a lot of white between the where that's been cut and where that mark starts. And if we look on the chart here, you can see, in fact, what you can also see is that marks extend beyond the top of the plasticine there, or beyond the top of the key, and there's only one lever in this lock that actually does that, and that's lever height 7. So lever height 7 will leave an indentation at the top, quite a bit of space at the bottom there, but it also goes over the top of the plasticine, which is what you can see there. So this is actually very encouraging with this particular lock, because we've got a 4, 2, 4, 7, 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load this pin and cam tool up with the pins to that specification. So let's just put a little bit of grease actually in here, just to keep those pins in place. So we said 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, and then we had 7, 7. There's a 7, which is a really high lift pin, and another 7. So there we go. We've now built the this to correspond to that. And what I'm going to do is let's put the camera back up to the lock. There we go. So this, if this isn't quite right, then what we can do is we can start dropping these down in pin heights and actually using the pin and cam feature itself to lift these pins and pick the lock. But looking at the clarity of the marks on that key, this I would suggest is probably going to be, let's make sure that's not influencing it. This is going to be pretty close, and in fact I've done a very stupid thing here, because the lock is on the right. So let's just put those pins, these 2 pins on the other side there. There we go. That's all it needed to do, because it's only a 7 cut key. Let's pop that back in. Oh, there we go. So it actually caught a little bit there. Oh no, nope, that's an open. So we'll go all the way. Let's see if we can go back. Yes, we can throw it back the other way. So we haven't even needed to operate this pin and cam tool at all, because the marks were really convincing on the plasticine, and it's actually given us the key that we needed to get this lock open. Where can this go wrong is probably more interesting than what I've just done there. Sometimes this reading doesn't have this clarity, and the reason being is the actual bolt thrower, the little nib on the curtain that hooks into the talon and throws this bolt back, can actually wear out in the field, and when it wears out, it means that you're able to rotate this key further than normal. and then it can, if it's rotated further, it allows these readings to be confusing. So they might be deeper, or they might be completely false indications on what the levers are inside the lock. Luckily, this one doesn't look like the curtain is particularly worn. So there we go. We've taken the reed, we've built the makeup key, and obviously now we've got the lock open, and that really is how this tool works, and how lucky we've just been having a reed that looks as good as that. So, and there we go.